What's up? I'm Brianna Ivy, and this is the Hear from a Student podcast. What's up, Alton?
What's up, Bree? How are you?
I'm good because it's Friday, and I
Oh,
try not to be
yes.
bad on a Friday.
Yes. I'm with you. Today, especially, it's a good Friday to be grateful for.
Yes. Oh, yeah, it sure is.
Yeah.
I always have to ask people now because I live in a place where it's unnecessarily cold. How is the weather where you are?
The weather, also unnecessarily cold. So I'm
Oh,
in New York now. So it just gets cold. It gets dark early.
yeah.
Definitely different than Atlanta, being at Georgia Tech.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's not fun. But um before we get started, go ahead and introduce yourself to the people. Let us know your name, what you study at Georgia Tech,
Okay.
and where you from.
Okay. So my name is Alton Stovall. I studied computer engineering at Georgia Tech, which is similar to what Bree studied. It's electrical
The
engineering.
dark side.
So we were on the same struggle bus in some of the same classes. And I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee. Yep.
I
Even
feel
though
like every time you say that, I make the same face, and I
I
should
think so.
know.
I think so. I think everyone does that. They kind of forget. But yes, Memphis is my hometown.
What? This whole time, I thought you was from Atlanta. That's crazy.
Nope.
Yeah.
People get mad at me or you for claiming Atlanta, not being from Atlanta. So
You're right.
I can't claim it.
Can't, yeah. A lot of things are not Atlanta, as we have realized in the recent past. So yes. Okay. So take me back to high school, Alton, before you went to Georgia Tech, right? I know we got to go back for that. But
Long and hard.
and you're from Memphis. Do
Yep.
you like what came first for you? Was it I want to be an engineer, or was it I don't want to go to school in the state of Tennessee?
Yeah, that's a good question. Definitely deciding to be an engineer came later in the process, actually. I didn't really decide to be an engineer until right before I accepted the school I was going to go to, Georgia Tech.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, high school Alton basically kind of looked a lot different than engineering college Alton. I was involved in a lot of things like student leadership, student government. I did like, if anyone remembers, like Model United Nations and
Yeah.
youth government, stuff like that. I was like all in on those things. So I really had it. I really had to make a decision on like what I wanted to focus in on because there was different sides of me that I wanted to explore. Um, so I could have easily been a business major, a public policy or poli sci major, but in the end, I just decided to be an engineer, and then that made my college decision easier to go to Georgia Tech.
Yeah. Was there like an experience that you had that made you say, oh, okay, I think I like engineering over like the business side or the
Yeah.
government side? Or did you just like jump out the plane with no parachute?
No, that's a good question. I mean, I have so there is like I kind of describe it as like different sides of me or sides of my brain that I could have explored. So I always had that engineering side. I think I got it from my grandpa. So he would always be like outside in the backyard fixing something, fixing his like where I'm from the country. So he's fixing his lawnmower, like fixing this car or something like that. And I would always be out there trying to help him and be interested in that. But then also I really liked doing student government and doing youth in government and learning about policy. So like I would say those were like equal almost in my head. And yeah, so I guess I don't know. It was a really hard decision to make.
Yeah.
And I just kind of just decided to go with engineering. I think I really like Georgia Tech's campus. I took a tour at Georgia Tech. I really like the campus. And I also kind of saw it as like something I could grow a lot in. So I felt like, I did really like the not engineering side of me. And I felt like I could do well in that, but I felt like I had a lot more to grow in the engineering side and the technical side. And so I decided I want to be molded and grow in that area.
Yeah.
That's why I chose Georgia Tech, basically.
Okay. I'm visiting Georgia Tech was also something that really helped with my decision. And I liked the campus a lot less the more I walked it, and the more like it would rain. And Georgia Tech has a lot of hills. So like you'll be trying to walk up the hill, but it's raining and all the rain is coming down the hill.
No, they don't show you that when you
don't.
take the tour. They make, it's all like nice and fancy, but
yeah. They only showed me Freshman Hill, which, was like the staple hill. So that's the one that they talk about. But the ones going from East Campus or the West Campus to East Campus and like in the little nooks and crannies and the shortcuts in between classes.
Yeah.
Those are
you gotta learn those the hard way, right?
Yeah. So did you apply to other schools or was Georgia Tech like the top one?
Yeah, I applied to different schools. So do you want me to like say the list of schools?
Nah, that was just for me. I was just interested. Okay. Like you said you were from the country, so I was kind of getting at, did you want to go to a bigger school in like a bigger city, or did you have apprehension about that, or were you just like, nah, I wanted to see something else?
Yeah. Oh yeah. You also asked about not going to school in Tennessee. Yeah, definitely that was something I wanted to do. I also moved around a lot, like just places we lived. So I feel like maybe just naturally I was always antsy or always trying to see like a new place.
Yeah.
As you know, we interned in New York, and I saw New York and saw how amazing it was, and I guess that carried on until after college as well. Yeah. But the same with Atlanta. Came to Atlanta, saw it how cool it was, and wanted, I guess, see something new. But also with the schools, I would say each school kind of focused on a different thing. So I would have gone to another school and focused on another thing. I would have gone to another school and focused on another thing. And then Georgia Tech was the engineering option.
Yeah.
So picking the school was equal to picking the subject or major.
Okay. That makes sense. So then you get to Georgia Tech's campus. Got Georgia Tech. What a time that was. What were some of your like favorite courses that you took, or maybe favorite topics that you studied?
Favorite topics? That's a good question. We're not starting with least favorite. We're starting with favorite.
Least favorite is always the second, but if you want to go least first, I will give you that. No. That's probably easy.
No, I'll start with favorites. I'll start on a positive note. I really liked, probably very nerdy, but I really liked like networking, like cloud engineering, and so cloud engineering and networking were the two top classes I think I took at Georgia Tech, mainly because it kind of teaches you how the internet works. Basically, like you use your phone, you use your computer, and I was always thinking like, I'm a computer engineer, but I still don't really know how these things work, how computers work, how networks work. So I guess the nerdy part of me wanted to really learn that. And I don't think I took that class until senior year. And then cloud computing is like obviously something that's like a buzzword. So I really wanted to learn more about it. And I'm actually doing that a little bit with my job now too. So it was a useful class. Also like senior design, because we got to build robots. Again, really nerdy, I know. And then I'll throw in a fourth one. I took sociology when I studied abroad, and that was really cool because it had nothing to do with engineering.
I didn't even know you studied abroad.
Yeah, I was in Spain when the pandemic hit, actually. But yeah.
You mentioned, so before I ask you about your least favorite classes.
Yep.
The interesting thing to me, so when I came into tech, when I was exploring where I wanted to go to school, certain schools have electrical engineering and computer engineering separately, but Georgia Tech has them together. And so I never really, until I got into the classes, like understood the difference between the two, which I'm gonna ask you about later. But you just explained something to me that I'd never thought about. And that is that when people say computer engineering, they say it's how a computer works. But I never thought about I would say software side, but like how a computer interacts with networks or like other computers. I never considered that in the how a computer works. I guess because I'm a hardware person, I only considered like, how does the motherboard in the computer tell the computer what to do when you hit a key? Yeah. So I think that is so interesting because I never even considered that.
I think that, I'm sure we'll get to it later, but I think it touches on like what I ended up doing.
Yeah.
with computer engineering, which is like you can focus on hardware, you can focus on software. Obviously, I was kind of interested in like software parts of it.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll talk about that. So
Yeah. We get to that because I
I'm not
always
I'm not gonna jump over your questions.
okay, okay. And then okay, so now you have to tell me your least favorite. I'm sure those are probably easier to come off
Let's
top.
see, where do I start? No, I'm just kidding. I'm not kidding, but let's see. What were the hardest classes? Um, there was a class called signal processing, which is, as you know,
Yeah.
for the viewers, basically turning like signals from your cell phone or whatever or satellite into math, basically. And it was just like it's as hard as it sounds. Like it's just that was the hardest class I probably ever took.
Wait,
Circuit
you only had to take one, right? You took the 2026? Okay.
26.
Okay.
So you had to say more?
No, I was just making sure. I was trying to see if you had.
Oh,
That was the only
no,
one I
not
took, and that was enough for me to know that that was not my ministry. That
yeah.
was awful. I remember sitting in the final, just looking at the professor, he looking at me, and I was doing so bad that he came by and was trying to help me walk through the answer. That's how bad that final went with Professor Nicholas, I think his name was.
It was okay. I think I had more, but
It might have been, I don't know. Black guy, glasses?
yeah.
Oh, his name wasn't Nicholas. Maybe that was his first name. I don't know.
Maybe it was his first name. Maybe it was his first name.
He
And
was a good teacher. It
God
just
bless his soul, he was trying as hard as he could to teach us, but it's just like, man, that stuff's so hard. And they make you take it. It's like one of the first classes you take. So um, I don't know. I think it was, if you ask any computer engineer, electrical engineer at Georgia Tech, that would probably be one of their answers.
yeah.
I also think circuits were very hard, but I know my electrical engineering friends don't always agree with me. They
Yeah.
say that's the easiest part, but I'm like, that was the hardest class I ever taken in my life.
Yeah.
Which is again basically taking circuits in your whatever phone
Yeah.
and applying math to it, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, those
Which circuit class did you take? Was it the
2040, maybe?
Oh, 2040 was awful.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that class.
I'm glad you agree with me. A lot of electrical engineers I know, they're just like that class is so easy. I'm like, what are you on?
Yeah, no. Well, I feel like it maybe would have been better if I would have had a different professor.
Okay.
But it just, yeah. For the first time that you're seeing certain things, people be skipping too many steps. Like you can't take me from A to G and we just skip everything in between. And I'm supposed to know it because this is my major.
Yep. And they're like, yeah, you can just do some math here. And then you get to the end, like, whoa, what's that? What's the math? Like, what are
you talking about?
Yeah, that's classic experience. Classic.
Yeah, yeah. So, so you brought up the difference between hardware and software.
Yep.
What is it that, and also, okay, so there's a difference between electrical and computer, but there's also in computer engineering, like, you know, the hardware or the software side. What is it that draws you more to the software side?
That's a good question. I haven't really thought about that. I think I always kind of saw coding as like a magical box where you like put something in and then you get something out, and it's kind of like magical how you get from A to B.
Yeah.
And I think I always kind of sought to understand that. And it was kind of also admittedly something that was hard for me. I didn't always understand it. So that was kind of one of my goals, was to be a good programmer, a good coder.
Yeah.
So I think because it was like hard and because it was like something I didn't get, it was that kind of drove me to want to understand it more. And then I started doing it and I was like, oh, this is actually kind of fun. It's like a puzzle where, and you can also have multiple solutions that have to reach the same output or the same solution. So I think that's the biggest thing for me.
Okay. That's a good way to explain it.
Yeah, thank you. I I didn't know if it was a good way to explain it or not.
No, it makes sense. I feel that way about like I don't do it much now, but in school when we had to do like circuit analysis, it was hard, but it's easier to like try to get good at something when you already have an interest, even when it's hard. So even though it's hard, you're like, I can do this. Now, for me, coding was the thing that was like, I do not like this thing, but I'm going to do it so I can get a good grade in this class. But if I never had to do it again, I wouldn't.
Yeah. At least I liked it a little bit.
Yeah.
I liked it enough to keep wanting to try
Yeah.
to figure it out. So
And now here I am coding every day.
okay. You can do my circus. I can do it. Oh yeah, I mean you're coding too though. So we both can do the coding.
You know. And I always ask my friends that code, and this is a no judgment zone, so you can say whatever you feel. Okay. Do you consider MATLAB a coding language?
I do.
Do you? Okay.
Especially because one, it was the first coding language I learned and in school, right? That's what they teach. Well, I don't think they teach engineers that, or I don't think they teach computer engineers that anymore.
Nope.
Python, right? But it was the first one we learned.
Yeah.
And I think, you could still teach like the fundamentals of programming. We still learn for loops and all these different things, what a structure is, array is. So if you can teach programming in it, why isn't it a programming language? I don't know. That's what I think.
Okay, cool. I think you're one of the first few people that didn't immediately say, I hate MATLAB. MATLAB sucks and it's not a coding language. It's just a calculator.
Well, I think everyone has to start somewhere too, right? Like,
yeah.
If I don't know who's watching this, but like if you are like interested in getting programming and not involved in programming, like pick a language to start in. Like MATLAB is a fine language to start in, as long as you can learn what a for loop is, learn these different things. Like it doesn't matter, and it's transferable to other languages you'll learn too.
That is true. A lot of the concepts, syntax completely different, but the
syntax is different.
But the concepts are the same. I do too much MATLAB and too much Python, but a lot of the like image processing stuff that we do is MATLAB, and then like test automation that I'm doing is like in Python. So, and the concepts are the same across, syntax is just different, but cool. I like MATLAB. I thought it was cool.
MATLAB is cool.
Yeah. Okay. What was maybe your favorite and least favorite project that you worked on?
Favorite and least favorite. Honestly, the first thing that coming to mind is favorites. Okay. So this is the opposite of the last question.
Okay.
In the class, I was like, I know which ones I hated, but I can't. But the ones, obviously, again, you and me worked on this, and I don't know if it's come up in a previous episode, but the incubator project, right? Creating incubators for premature babies in Ghana. I think that was like the first time I saw like the real world applications of engineering. Yeah. We all kind of just came together on this project, and like we had electrical engineers, we had computer engineers, we had mechanical engineers, and we built this box for this doctor. And we FaceTimed this doctor in Ghana and give him all the specs and help him out. Like that was really cool and really amazing. I'm thinking back to I can't remember what class it was, but we built like a video game. We like programmed a video game. Yeah. Kind of like Pokemon looking game. So I think that was like, for me, being someone that wanted to be a programmer, that was like one of the first major achievements. Yeah. So that was fun. Ooh, least favorites projects. I really can't think too much about like, the least favorite ones. I really, maybe like, I think we had like a class in C where there's this thing in C, if you're not familiar, called malloc. I think we had to like program this like memory. I don't know. I can't even like, I think I from my memory. Yeah. It was like something that is automatic, right? Something that's automatic. We had to write the code for it. And it was like, why are we writing the code if it's automatically given? Yeah. But it's so you understand it, but still I was like, why are we doing this? So kind of something like that.
Now that I'm thinking about it, no, I do have a least favorite project. I was about to say I don't, but I really do.
Okay, what's yours?
Junior design was the worst thing I ever put my hands on at Georgia Tech. Okay. I didn't even want to put my name on it when they turned it in. It was awful. Didn't like that project at all.
What was so bad about it? Was like just you didn't want to do it, or was it like just turned out bad?
I'm gonna pick my words carefully here.
Yeah, this is
I think it just didn't turn out the way I envisioned in my head. And so the final product was so different. And I put so much time and effort into it.
Okay. I'm trying to think, like, did I know your group, or like, did I know your class?
You were there, Alton. Hold on. Did you make the record player? Were you on the team with the record player?
I don't think so. No.
What did y'all make at the end?
I'm literally like, I'm blocking. Oh, we made like a robot and it like danced to the music.
Oh, yours was really good, right?
I think it
yes,
was.
Don't say you think. It looked good because the thing, okay, yeah. The thing about senior design versus junior design. First of all, the project for senior design was much closer to my heart, but also the number of people working on it, I also think makes a difference.
Yep.
And I was also the only double lead on the junior design team, so nobody really helped me with the circuits.
That's the worst. Yeah. You're doing it all by yourself, or like you're the person that everybody asks questions about too. Yeah.
Basically. And then so like I was trying to get my stuff to work, but then nobody else could get their stuff to work. So it's like I can only do my stuff. Everybody's struggling. And then at the end, it looked like what it looked like. But that's okay because we grew and junior design was so much better.
Yeah. Exactly. It was prepped for the perfect senior design project that we all loved, right?
Yes, and it was really good. And it also was probably the closest thing to, like you said, real life application, real life. This is what an engineering project looks like, all the different disciplines. Having to really, it was like one of the few projects, maybe the only one where you really had to think on all levels, like even down to like, okay, what kind of connectors do we use to get from the front panel to like, I don't know, the fan or the board. And it's like, in other classes, you wouldn't really think about that because it would be given to you. And so having to build something for someone in the real world was like, you have to think about all these things. So
even down to the communication with the doctor, like that was something we had to schedule, and working with the group and different people's schedule, and somebody's sick. Like it was like really, and then everybody got sick with COVID.
What was that? Like 2 days before?
It was like, it was, I think it was the last week of the project where we had to cover it the next week, and nobody could go in to work on the project. Like that was,
everybody had COVID, but 2 people.
Yeah.
I remember I was leaving my dorm and somebody put in the Teams chat, so I tested positive for COVID. And we had all been in the room because we was all working. So everybody's just like calling each other, like, do you need to go get tested? What do we do about the project?
Yeah, people, and our sponsor, our advisor is like, do I need to bring y'all groceries? Like, it's like,
what a good time.
That was like pre-peak COVID too. So
yeah. Do you know we met the doctor? Were you there that semester?
No.
Like he flew to Atlanta. He was at Tech, and he saw like the thing. I have to send you a picture of that. But yeah,
that's awesome. I just interacted with them over Zoom.
Yeah, and then of course Dr. Smith had dinner at his house because that's such a Dr. Smith thing to do. Yeah.
Everyone's coming over my house.
Oh yeah.
How's he doing, by the way? He's good?
I think he's good. The meetings that Ben and Strigen and I have had, he hasn't been in them. But I saw him maybe like earlier sometime this year, and he was good. So yes. Aside from that tangent, okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
What do you think was the most challenging thing about studying computer engineering?
Most challenging thing was definitely the concepts that are like more abstract. So like, I guess everyone knows like how math works, right? You take some numbers, you do something with it, you get the answer. But what about when you start introducing not numbers, like letters or symbols? Like your brain can't just explode when that happens. Your brain has to adapt to this abstract, different concept that you haven't really seen before. And so engineering, I feel like, is one of the particular fields where like you'll see things you have just never seen before in your entire life. And you're like, what is this? And I think it's easy in those times to be like, okay, I'm out. Can't do this.
Yeah.
Really, like, think about it. Like, it's just in a way, it is just letters instead of the numbers. So like, okay, let's do A plus B equals C. So like, you got to kind of take a second, calm down,
Yeah.
and realize that you can actually understand these abstract concepts. You just have to use what you already know to get there, basically. So that was the hardest thing for me, is seeing something you just never seen before and basically being okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. I remember the first time I saw like a circuit broken down, but then like all the equations were just purely symbols,
Yeah,
no
no
numbers.
numbers.
And like the professor was just going, just writing and understanding what was going on. I was like, there's no numbers here. I don't even understand. And then you get to a point where if you add numbers, it just makes it harder.
Yeah,
So like you
exactly.
get to a point where you're like, I don't need any numbers in this. We'll solve it up until we can, and then we'll put the numbers in. So it's interesting how your brain does that switch.
Yep. But you just gotta power through. I mean, we made it, right? We're here.
We
So
did.
it's a testament to like, yes, you can. Like it's gonna be hard making
Yeah.
it, but you know, you can do it and you can figure it out. So
Yes, that is true. You mentioned earlier studying abroad. What was that experience like for you? And I know you went during the pandemic, so even more so. How did you
yeah.
navigate that? And what were classes like in a different country?
Yeah. That's a good question. So I'll say my 3 months studying abroad, which should have been like 6 months. But for the 3 months that I was there, it was an amazing time of my life. So I did Madrid. I guess, yeah, go into the details, right?
Yeah.
I did Madrid study abroad at a school called UC3M. So it's kind of a school that focused on engineering as well, which is not something that everyone does. They kind of, sometimes people target like a different type of school. But basically, you go there, instead of going to Georgia Tech for a semester, you go to that school, this and that for the, I should assume people know the basics of studying abroad. But what I did was an exchange program. So it is a little less hands-on. Like the school is basically gets students from them and then sends you, and then like, they're basically like, okay, did you get your classes? Yes. You have to tell them yes. Versus study abroad was like, you go with the group and you're like, got an instructor. It's like, oh, exchange is like a little bit more like freelancing it a little bit. So that was like a unique experience. Also didn't speak like so much Spanish, and I was in Madrid, Spain. So, that encouraged me to learn quickly how to speak Spanish. I went with some friends, so that was fun.
Okay.
But in terms of like the classes, I took like one engineering class and I think 3 non-engineering classes, because I kind of wanted to, take a little bit of a break and also learn something different, learn something new. Like I said, sociology was one of the classes I took studying abroad, and it was a great time. Do you want me to get into like the knots classes part, or like?
Yeah, you can. I'm interested in hearing this. I never studied abroad. I was too afraid.
Okay. Well, I mean, okay, aside from the classes, like one of the top things that people always love about studying abroad is that you can make it so that, you have classes like 4 days a week instead of 5. And then you have like 3 days, long weekends to travel all over the country. If you're in Europe, you can travel all over Europe. You can travel all over Asia or wherever you are. And so that's what we did. Like every weekend we were in like a different country exploring it. So, and I had barely been out of the country. So doing that was like incredible experience. I went to so many different places. I went to Portugal. I went to Bulgaria. I don't know why. It was just like, like the cheapest flight we could find. So we was like, okay, fine, we'll go to Bulgaria. I went to Prague, all these different places. So definitely like the cultural experience is like what is a little bit more valuable studying abroad than like the credits, because you can get the credits at home, right?
Right.
Now getting to beyond the 3 months, unfortunately, COVID-19 came about in the March that I was studying abroad. I also say that Madrid, Spain, where I was after I left, became the #1 most infected city on earth shortly after I left the place. So that was not the most fun, but my time while I was there and before COVID really kind of messed it up was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
You
I got
know,
stories for days for that, but
yeah, we'll
I'll keep
offline. We'll offline.
concise. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but I will ask you, what was your favorite country to visit?
My favorite country to visit. I mean, Portugal was really fun.
Okay.
Portugal was really fun to see. I was in Spain, so seeing, I guess, all different parts of Spain, getting
Yeah.
to know the culture was cool as well. I had a trip scheduled to Morocco. I
Oh,
just like going through the desert and seeing a bunch of different things, riding a camel we were supposed to do,
yeah.
but we didn't get a chance to do that.
Dang.
Unfortunately.
Maybe you'll get back. I guess this time you have to pay for it yourself, which is not
Yeah,
the goal.
well,
But
we'll see.
yeah. Okay. So what were some of the labs that you did? I know for like the electrical engineering students, we were like building circuits and filters or whatever. What did a lab look like for a computer engineer?
That's a good question. I gotta think back.
Okay.
Lab. So okay. I mean, so one lab that we had was, I can't remember the number, but basically it was like we would have to build something on a circuit board every week, every class. So we had to go into lab to use the different parts and borrow like the chip, this certain chip or this board or whatever, and build these different components. So like maybe it'd be like a speaker setup or like an alarm system or something like that. So I guess I think that's a good example of like the type of labs that we did. And there's also, I think we had lab for like more software classes. I'm not sure how, like, I can't remember like why we needed a lab for that.
Yeah.
But it was just basically focusing on like CS-based projects, and you kind of work with like your team or like ask questions to the TA.
Yeah.
And then you have classic lab where like we all had to take lab sciences, so physics lab, chemistry labs, stuff like that, classic stuff.
Yeah. I think all of my like software lab classes, you didn't have to go in anywhere. You just had to like do the lab, and like for 4180, we bought the parts and like we built whatever circuits in our lab, but you had to like go on the Blue Jeans call and show them that the circuit worked. That was crazy also, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why that was required, but
Yeah. So and to you, then I will transition out of these set of questions. But to you, what's the biggest difference between computer engineering and electrical engineering?
Okay, interesting. So like you say, yeah, like a lot of colleges combine it, some don't. I think the biggest difference is kind of that. I'm trying to think. I was about to say twing. I don't think that's a word. It has like,
I know what you're talking about though.
It has like a little more of a focus.
Yeah.
A slight little focus on software in addition to the hardware, right? So as a computer engineer, I sought to understand how the physical computer works, but also how like the networks work and how the software works. I feel like electrical engineering is kind of more purely focused on that. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but more purely focused on the hardware element, how that works, circuits, the electricalness of these devices. But correct me if I'm wrong on the electrical part.
No, you're pretty much right. Like we got to take EMAG and you got to know all that kind of stuff. Like microelectronics, you got to know what happens inside of a diode that makes it a diode, all that kind of stuff.
And actually, one thing to add is this happened after we left, but now it's literally half and half. So you take one focus in electrical and computer engineering, and you take one thread in computer science, and that's computer engineering degree now.
What?
So you pick one thread and you pick one focus in electrical. So it's literally like half CS, or half electrical. Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of nice. Actually.
I was like, why didn't they have that when we were?
Yeah. I remember when we were there, they were talking about how the curriculum was about to shift, because even with electrical now, I think you pick threads. So like it's like a communications thread, I think, if I'm remembering this correctly. So it's like you can pick and choose kind of like what you want to do, which is something else I was gonna say. Like you can cater. I could have took more like programming electives.
Yeah.
didn't want to. But if it is something you're interested in on the side, you can at Georgia Tech at least like kind of cater your educational experience to say, hey, I want to learn about this.
Yeah.
That would work for me. But yeah, I agree with that.
And that's to my knowledge. I actually just thought like maybe some current students are watching and it's like, that's not exactly how it works. But to my knowledge, it's like partially CS, partially electrical.
Yeah.
But correct me if I'm wrong.
There's a Georgia Tech website out there that somebody can go.
Yeah, check out.
Yeah. Did you have any misconceptions about computer engineering prior to like starting your coursework that got cleared up the further you got along?
That's a good question. I did probably think it was like a little bit more identical to computer science, like a little bit more similar to computer science. And I would even say like the change in curriculum, if I'm correct about that, kind of slates it more towards what I thought it would be or what it should be. Like literally half software focus, half. I think maybe it was like 70-30 at Georgia Tech. And when we took it, it was like 70% electrical stuff and then 30% programming. But you can also go out of your way like I did. So I went out of my way to take 1331, 1332, which are the fundamental CS classes for computer science majors, and kind of enhance your focus on software. So, but that was probably my biggest misconception, was how similar it would be to computer science.
Yeah. Okay. It's kind of similar along those same lines. What is something you wish someone would have told you about computer science before you started, or just studying a STEM major in general?
Man, the amount of stuff you have to figure out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like, I'm trying to figure out how to best describe that. Like in English class, you write essays and like, you know, pretty much every word that you could possibly use, right? Yeah. And like, it's not like you're making it up, but you kind of have that knowledge. Like you have the essay potentially in your head. You just kind of have to put the words together and figure it out. Yeah. Engineering is nothing like that. There's going to be stuff where you're just like, I have never seen that in my entire life. I have no idea what that is, how that happens, whatever. Yeah. And you still have to figure out how to figure it out.
Yeah.
So I think what you'll find with engineering is that it is more about the methodology of learning things that you don't understand than the concepts itself. That is, to me, that is what engineering is like figuring out how to figure things out.
Yes. I always say one of the biggest things I credit Georgia Tech with, besides, my degree in general, is I learned how to learn. Like I learned how to learn. I learned how to ask the right questions, which questions to ask, and how to do it quickly, because the test is happening in an hour. So I got to figure out, what I don't know and how to learn it in a set amount of time. But I think that's a good, there's a lot of stuff. And there are some professors who set up their class so that you are just figuring things out
all the
whole time. Like they'll give you the most basic thing that they can give you and be like, now you tell me how this works, and you just be like, I've never seen this in my life.
Yeah. I feel like you'll also be surprised. Like if anyone is here is like thinking about getting into engineering and isn't yet or something like that, like you'll also be surprised like what you're doing, like how much your brain is processing. Because like you'll be like doing this equation and like with all these symbols and stuff, and then you'll just look back and be like, did I write that? Like what if I wasn't like in this moment, I would not think I came up with this answer, this solution, or so I don't know. I was looking back at some of my notes. That's why I thought about that. And I was like, who wrote this?
And it'd be you the whole time. It's like at some point I knew exactly what this meant. And if I looked at it hard enough, I could probably remember. But the fact that, we learned so much and for like a class in such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
We really did something.
We did something, man. That's something I will say. Like I did that. We did that,
Yeah. Like what do you think is your favorite skill that you gained from Georgia Tech? It could be a hard skill or a soft skill.
Again, like I'm gonna keep harping on it, but just like that ability to figure out hard things. And like let me add then, like it also applies to other aspects of life too. Like not just what you're learning in school or like what you have to do like for a project or whatever. Like I don't know. One example is like math. Like now, if I need to do some math in my head, like I'm gonna, math with numbers.
Yeah.
Me is just like that's easy.
Yeah.
Like we have real numbers. All of the numbers are real. Like okay, let me do that. Or
Yeah.
like any sort of problem solving, escape rooms for me.
Yeah.
Trivia, things that you could just like work and find out a solution. It's just easier. And
Yeah.
also like you may find at work on your job after you graduate from college, like some things you'll notice that are presented and everyone around you is like, oh, like freaking out.
Yeah.
But you're kind of calm about it because you know how to tackle things that you don't know already. So it makes just everything in life a lot easier.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Very much agreed.
I don't know. I was trying to think of a good example. Like math is probably like one of my top examples of that. But do you have like any good examples of like what's now kind of just surprisingly easier?
I think the last thing you said about like in the work environment, because now, we're working adults, so they say, but like the not panicking because it's so much that you don't know. I really feel like that's an underrated skill because now I look at some people and they are panicking, but it's like Georgia Tech has done me worse than this. Therefore, I am okay now. Like, yes, they expect me to finish this by whatever deadline, and I have no idea what's happening, but I feel fully confident that I can get it done. And even when I don't understand something, Georgia Tech also made me comfortable with like asking questions. So I be at work all day messaging people. If I don't know, if I've like exhausted a reasonable amount of time trying to figure it out in the team chat. Hey, so you remember this thing? Listen, so like
I mean, like what else are you supposed to do? Like you
right.
can't know stuff that you don't know, right? So
right. And I think that at work there have been times where I'm like, oh my gosh, I learned this in the class. I might not remember everything, but it's like I can recall the basic concepts. And then it's like, wow, Georgia Tech really did do something for me.
It's crazy how much that becomes like something you think about, like, wow, I did learn.
Yeah. So
and definitely, the building blocks, like you get the basics down and everything else just kind of builds on that.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody and I was like, I really feel like, so you might not use everything that you ever learned in the class at Tech, right? But I feel like the bulk of what it did was it gave me a toolbox of a bunch of different tools. And in any given situation, I have what I need and I can take it out and be like, all right, so I know this applies somehow. How do I use it here? Like, it may not be exactly, like they might not be asking me what's going on inside this diode, but I need to use it in a certain way. And having whatever knowledge I had in microelectronics helps me figure out how to use whatever they're asking me to use in that context.
Exactly. It's kind of like I've solved this. And it's not like I know this answer. It's like I've solved this type of problem before.
Right.
So you can use how you solve the problem to come up with the solution. Like it's kind of like that. Yeah.
Right. Side note, I had a power electronics professor who gave a talk at GE Healthcare the other day. And I remember how miserable I was in his class. And then he showed up in a meeting and I was like, and I had just been using the equations that he taught me like in the board on my project. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. This is a full circle moment because I was going to drop his class.
Yep. I don't know if did you see him after or did you tell him?
I sent him an email. Okay. And he said he remembered me, and it's probably because I was always emailing him, asking him a question.
Yep. No, that happens all the time. I can't remember the situation, but I saw somebody from Georgia Tech, and I was like, I didn't particularly like your class, but thank you.
Right. What do you think studying computer engineering taught you about yourself?
That's such a good question. What did it teach me about myself? I mean, it's gonna sound corny, but like that I can do this, like, like that I can do it. I can solve problems that like I look at or stare at and I just don't think I understand any part of it. Like, you can do that. Is that like Georgia Tech's slogan?
It is.
I didn't even mean to do that, but like that's really kind of true. Like you kind of learn that you can do it, especially like I always thought that I was someone who could do like I could always do the soft kind of things, like, again, student government, things like that, and like communicating with people. But I guess I always didn't have that same confidence in the technical stuff, like the concrete knowledge, the concrete ability to problem solve. And I think Georgia Tech taught me, and coming out of Georgia Tech taught me, like, I can do both of those things.
Yeah.
And also, like, I think you can bring both of those things together and be successful, which is particularly interesting because you don't always see that. Maybe someone is like really, 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 really smart. They are not the best communicator. Maybe someone is the best communicator, but they don't know anything about engineering, anything about computer or whatever.
Yeah.
But you can really bring both of these things together. It is possible. So that would be my answer.
Yeah. I like how you threw Georgia Tech's motto in there.
Yeah, I didn't mean to do that.
True. I feel like they take you through the ringer, and by the end, it's just like, I really got a degree from Georgia Tech.
Yes.
And I can go back in my mind and pinpoint moments where I was like, I don't think I'm ever going to get out of here.
Yep.
And or I'm going to force my way out and transfer to another school. So to get to the end and be like, wow, I really did this. It really does make you feel good. Or like, I don't know if you've had moments, but I had moments where like I'm struggling on a project or an assignment or something. I get to the end, I'll be like, wow, I really did that. I'm still in one piece.
I'm resilient. I'm like more resilient than I thought I could ever be.
Yeah. Georgia Tech gave me confidence in the technical. That was a really good point you made.
Yeah, thank you. And I think our graduation was the perfect way to go out. Just heavy rain pouring down, and it was like that was the perfect way to go out. Heavy rain.
I was so upset because it was just like sprinkle. And as soon as that man said, "Can the College of Engineering please stand?" Yeah, the bottom fell out.
People were like scrambling for their umbrellas,
and we was in heels, and it was a lot going on. But you're right; it very much speaks to the experience that I had at Georgia Tech, and I think it was a storybook way to finish that chapter. So
motto was, "It's raining, but I still am graduating."
Got across that stage, and for that we thank God.
Oh yes.
Okay, so we're gonna pivot into some questions that may make you use your imagination a little bit more.
Okay.
You probably touched on this a bit, but if you could pick a skill from a different major, what would it be and why?
I think marketing is very important, because if you come up with the best idea ever and you can't convince people it is the best, you can't sell it, you can't make it look good, then it's not useless, but it's not as great as it could possibly be.
Yeah.
So I think like a company like Apple is a great example of those two things coming together. Like, it's good technology. Some people would like fight me. Oh, like Apple's not the best technology, whatever. Apple to me is like some of the best technology. They're top tier tech company, but they also like sell their products. Their products look gorgeous. They look good. So I think that's kind of what I see as the ideal, kind of that intersection between technological and like marketing.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Slash design. Yeah.
That's good. I think that side, as an engineer, that side of the world we don't always think about, but it is important, because who's going to buy your thing if it looks like it's going to explode when you touch it?
Oh yeah.
Or if you can't sell it, like if you can't make somebody spend their money on it, then it's like, what'd you build it for?
Yeah, and shout out to like user UI, UX, we call that, like user interface, user experience, people that focus on the experience of a user using your app.
Yeah.
Like, do they like it? Are they happy right now? Like, to me, that's like some of the most important work.
Yeah.
That we don't always think about.
And honestly, to be fair, I didn't really start thinking about it for real until the incubator project, where I think somebody made a comment about like what it looked like, because at first, it had the pointy edges and it had like things, and the doctor was like, if a mother walked in here and saw this, she would be concerned. And we were like, You're right.
Yeah, it's us engineers. Sometimes we're tempted to be like, can we just put it in a box? Like the
Yeah,
magic is in the circuit board. But like nobody wants to look at a circuit board. They want to look at
right,
the pretty. They want to look at something they can actually use, right?
right. Sometimes we go for more functional than how
Right.
it looks,
But
and
you need both,
there's a
obviously.
place for both. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
What do you think when you're working with other disciplines? What do you think is unique about your perspective as a computer engineer?
Mm. Other disciplines definitely. If you're the only engineer in the room, it definitely shows
Mm,
because everyone kind of thinks practically. I don't know if that's the best word. They think about in terms of like what they do know, maybe,
mhm.
and they're not so inclined to think about like what do we not know, what can we figure out, how can we think about this in an engineering way. Like the
Yeah,
engineering mindset again is something that is kind of invaluable that comes
yeah,
with the engineering degree. And if you, I would say if you're the only engineer in the room, it shows. And
yeah,
also throw some stats out there. I think I don't know the percentage, but a large percentage of CEOs of the top companies study engineering. Honestly, like electrical, computer
yeah,
science, and like that type of engineering too.
yeah,
So it's like that mindset is valuable, and it also gets you places.
yeah, that is true. What about if you're in the room with other engineers, but maybe they're like mechanical or
Makes
biomedical?
what? Okay, about the computers. I mean, I think they're all like it's so funny actually talking to mechanical engineers that are so smart doing all this stuff, heat transfer, all these different things
Yeah,
you understand. Like, oh, like you understand computers, you can
yeah,
code. That's so crazy. And they're like, what? You are so smart. But
yeah,
like, I think even to them, the kind of coding slash computer side of it is a little magical still too. I don't know. You can weigh in on what you think too, but I think to them it is still unique, the ability to kind of understand the computer networking coding side of things. That's still unique, even within other engineering fields.
yeah. I think there's always for me like a little bit of mystery with other like engineering majors because you know what you do, you know what other electrical engineers or computer engineers do, even if you don't know exactly, like you know the realm that they're in. But like a mechanical, when you say heat transfer, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Biomedical, when you start throwing out like body parts and terms,
yeah,
I don't really know. And I always think it's cool when I get to hear other people like talk in their discipline jargon. And I be in my meetings, like if I'm with meetings with electricals and mechanicals or whatever, and I'll just be like typing words so I can go back and Google. Because hearing people talking their jargon and they be so into it and they so passionate and they know what they're talking about. But then there's always somebody in the room that's like, okay, but for the electrical engineers in the room, is
um,
what does this mean to us? Is this a problem? Like what? You
yeah.
know,
It's always funny. It's always funny. But and also, by the way, I threw out heat transfer. That's like like one of the only keywords I
only
know.
thing I know.
That's like I just know the keyword. Like I don't know anything what that is. Like I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, I don't either. That's why during the incubator project, I was always like spying on the mechanicals. I was like, what are y'all doing here? Like, I know that they're building the thing, but it goes so much goes into building a structure, so much more than I would ever think about. Like when they had the discussion about the type of glue,
Yeah.
Elmer's. That's all I got. That's all I know. It's the only glue I've ever
Gorilla glue. They're like,
like
no, we have to be this. Like,
acrylic
whatever.
epoxy and what is the melting point? I was like,
It
I
was
got
like
my own problems.
it's so funny. It is like, yeah, it's kind of funny interacting with other because they're so smart, but they're like
Yeah,
smart in a different field.
area.
They're
Yeah,
nerding out about their stuff. We're nerding about like coding or whatever,
yeah,
electrical stuff. And they're like, what are you talking about? You're like, what are you talking about?
yeah.
It's so funny.
It
It is.
is fun. If you work for Webster's Dictionary and they came to you and they said, Alton, we need you to write the definition of a computer engineer, what would you write?
Oh, Webster's dictionary. Didn't they put LOL in the dictionary? Are they the ones that did that?
They might have been.
Okay. Because I know LOL in some dictionary. But anyway, computer engineer. I mean, I don't know. Is there a definition now? I'm getting off topic.
Probably someone who knows how a computer works.
Yeah. I would say someone who has knowledge of the design of computers hardware as well as the corresponding software. So like, again, about this kind of intersection between the hardware, the electrical components, the circuits, as well as the software that is running on it. That is my interpretation of computer engineering. And that's what I would say. Now it does depend on your school also, or like where you learn computer engineering. Like you said, it varies by school. Like sometimes it's pretty much electrical engineering, sometimes it's pretty much computer science.
Yeah.
But in terms of what we learned at Georgia Tech, that's how I would define it.
Okay. Now this is for my own personal interest. When you say the software on a computer, right? There's like, do you mean like the
operating system, all that stuff?
Operating system. Okay, that's what I was gonna ask. Or like, because you know, there's a motherboard with registers on the computer that saves whatever and communicates whatever. So is it that low level, or are you talking about operating system level, or is it both?
That's a good question. I mean, I think the lower level stuff honestly comes with electrical, maybe like registers and like all this. Like, I don't know if you took like assembly, like the low level stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe not so much. Okay, maybe so, maybe not. But like, okay, like, what is a for loop, or like, what are these? Like, I think I feel like computer engineering is like slightly focused a little bit more on like software principles, even high level, like Java or Python or something like that, like creating a script to run on a computer system or something like that. Like that's kind of what I was thinking.
Okay.
To each their own. Like if anyone disagrees, like fine, you know.
Yeah.
Like, that's cool. Like that's kind of just my like interpretation of it, and that's also what I made it for myself.
Yeah.
So maybe not everyone have the same experience.
Yeah. Interesting. I don't know. I just never knew what that low level part, who that belonged to. Because, you know, like you can be an FPGA engineer if you're an electrical engineer, like digital. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah. And I have good friends who work like on their computer engineers that only do low level stuff, like or like whatever. So each your own.
Okay. If you could take all of your engineering knowledge, right? You got it all in the bag, and you could go into any other universe that you wanted to go into, fictional universe, whatever. Where would you go? And is there a character that you will replace in that universe?
You know what my immediate thought was? The Martian. Like that
Martian Manhunter?
No, Martian, like with Matt Damon. Like he
okay.
But no, I'm thinking about like a movie with like terrible science.
Yeah.
Engineering just doesn't math.
Yeah.
But I think that's actually one of the ones where the engineering did add up. Like they did a lot of research before they filmed it. But basically, like if anyone didn't watch it, Matt Damon, the main character, gets stuck on Mars. His team is behind, and he has to figure it out. But I don't know. Fictional land.
Yeah. And it also doesn't have to be STEM related. I've had people say some things that are not STEM related at all, but you just get to take your knowledge and you can.
My knowledge. I would try to figure out how mathematically did Thanos like where's the math in that? Like if I was there to introduce like logic and reason and math, like maybe it wouldn't have happened because I don't know how mathematically that's possible, logically speaking.
Me and my brother just actually had the longest debate about the quantum realm. I don't know if you see.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay.
And we was going back and forth because he was like, "You're an engineer, so you should know these things," and he was trying to disprove why you shouldn't be able to move through time in the quantum realm. This is a really big debate, so I do agree with that because sometimes as an engineer, the logic don't be logicking, but you just go with it anyway because
exactly. I have a few questions I answer about that.
Yeah, would you just want to go into that universe, or would you want to replace one of the characters and be?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I'll just be there to introduce, like ask the tough questions, like how are we doing this? Like, is this possible? And how are you guys gonna go back in time? Like, I would kind of like to figure out the math. Like, I would talk to Tony Stark to be like, how are we doing this? Like, how are we going back in time? Because you know how like in the movie he just like, oh, I got it. Like it draws like some weird shape,
some spiral looking thing. Yeah.
It's like, what is that? Like, what's the math behind that?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just the first thing that came in my head. It's probably stupid.
I mean, it's valid, you know? All right, in 10 seconds or less, 10 seconds ish, why should someone study computer engineering?
To start thinking like an engineer. It's something that is just, there's nothing like it. There's nothing, in my opinion, more valuable than being able to solve problems, period, like in general. Things that you don't know, you can now solve because you can think like an engineer. Computer science because it's cool and you can program.
Good.
Computer engineering, not computer science.
Okay. Plug in
But
somebody else's major.
both are valid. Both are fine.
Okay. You mentioned our internship. I don't
Yep.
know if it was your first internship, but it was mine. And
Mm,
I just have to say, 10 out of 10.
then I
And
said,
you and Angelique, Daryl, and Diego were my Explore New York buddies. So
yeah,
tell us about your first internship and then how that developed into the career you have now.
yeah. Actually, my first internship was not that one.
Okay.
So I did it a year before, and I was interning in Atlanta. Do I say like, I never know. Like, do I say like the name of the like, do I say everything?
It's up to you. I don't know.
Okay. All right. So yeah, the first one was in Atlanta. It was with GE. So
Oh,
yeah, it was like close to home.
yeah.
And it was like a cool experience. But I'll focus on the one that we did together.
Okay.
So I don't know if you said it, so I'll just keep it more broad. But we got to spend like an entire summer in New York City. Got to see the city, which it was our first time doing. And like New York City is like a crazy place to just explore for the first time and just be there like a summer, just doing whatever. I can't remember what all we got into, like what all we did.
Everything.
The nature of the internship is like really incredible because you get to try something. You get to try living in New York for like whatever 3 months.
Yeah.
You get to try being a software engineer, a computer engineer, and you also get paid most of the time. So that was an amazing experience. All those three things I mentioned were amazing. I learned a lot, and I'm ultimately at the same company that I interned at, and I did 2 internships with them. So it worked out for me. So it's like amazing time to try something new. Sometimes you can land a cool city, and they also basically give you the safety to like financially and physically to be out in a new city and as a college student exploring something new, and also lined you up for a good full-time job. So
cool. I don't know if you can say, but can you talk about some of the roles you had as an intern and then the role you have now?
yeah. So all of my roles as an intern were more or less software engineering. So wink, wink, hint, hint. That's always something I've been interested in. Even though I was focusing on both hardware and software, I was kind of interested from early on in the software side of it. So all my internships were in software engineering, and that is exactly what I do now. Right now, I also focus a little bit on cloud. So I was mentioning that's one of my favorite classes in school. So yeah, software engineer, cloud focus, current life status.
Yeah. What does your day-to-day look like? Like, are you mostly sitting at your desk coding? I guess there's no lab to go to. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't have a lab. Yeah, it's like a lot of times. So there's obviously also meetings. There's things that are daily, like catching up with your team, which is pretty universal. Like everyone's gonna probably catch up with their team on a daily basis. Then you have meetings to go over what other people are looking for, what they need from you, right? So I'll also say like over time, it becomes less about like the line of code that you write and more about like the high level design principles and the design of what we need. And then you have to go and talk to somebody about that because you don't always have that information. So I'm kind of seeing more and more like I'm being in meetings like that. Like, what does the design of the system look like? And then I go to my computer and program it. So I would say, that's probably like 70% of the time, like writing code. I'm also in the office talking to people, hanging out with people, having a good time. So I enjoy it, but that's what my day-to-day looks like. Take lunch, hang out with people, try to keep it as casual as not casual, but like try to keep it as fun as possible too.
Yeah. I don't know if you said already. Do you want to say where?
Yeah, I'm so right now I'm at BlackRock. So
Okay.
I'm in software engineering for them.
Yeah.
Which is where we interned as well.
Yes. I always shout out BlackRock. They treated me so well when I was there.
Okay. I didn't know if you had said it before, so I didn't want
I
to
haven't.
disclose it for you. But
Yeah. But
yeah.
no, that was a great, 10 out
Yeah,
of
that was an amazing internship. Yeah.
10. Yes. And okay, and you said you were basically software cloud computing. Do you want to touch on your project a little bit, or I don't know?
Yeah, I mean, so basically, like, I guess I may not necessarily can get too super into it, like, or detailed into it, but like basically everyone, so like in the past, most people kind of hosted. We'll get into hosting a little bit, like basically all of the things I need to run my computer systems and like my website, all of those physical servers and all those things are under our ownership. We have it in a building somewhere, right?
Yeah.
But then there's this big move to cloud where everyone's like, okay, we'll pay Google, we'll pay Microsoft, we'll pay Amazon to host those things themselves, and we'll just pay them, right? So they own the computers that our stuff runs on.
Yeah.
So BlackRock's no different. My company's no different.
Results on search.
I don't know what my Google Home.
Oh, they heard me say something. Yeah. Yeah. Like, you know, we're also we touch that space as well, I'll say. So that's my job as a cloud engineer, is to figure out how to do that most efficiently, most effectively.
Wait, you have to say that again, because Google started talking. Figure out how to do that most efficiently. Figure out how to like.
Like how to get us on the cloud, how to like make sure we're running as like, basically you don't want that to slow you down. You don't want that to stop you. And it was also like a lot of different things, and like there's like I'm trying not to say things and this and that, but like there's like a lot of different tools and technologies that are like new, that are only for cloud native things, right? Or cloud native platforms.
Yeah.
So we're also looking at how to take advantage of that, how to, you know, reduce costs. And these are things, by the way, that all companies are kind of focusing on now. So BlackRock don't come from me. I'm not disclosing any secrets.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
The project that I'm working on right now is about cutting costs. So like,
I mean, look, we're moving to the cloud, we're cutting like we're helping people move to the cloud, we're cutting costs. Like that's standard stuff, right?
Yeah.
So that's my focus as a cloud engineer. Obviously, there's a lot of systems that you have to build to automate those processes, to roll out new environments, roll out things for new clients. So I help automate those processes. I'm sorry, I'm trying to like draw the line.
No, you're okay. I understand. Only so much you can say.
The problem is I don't know how, you know, how to make sense of it, but like, and it's not like by any means top secret, but like, you know, it's like,
no, I get it. The only reason I ask is because I remember when I was like trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Yeah. It always helps when you hear what other people do, like even just like very general. It's like, oh, okay. And then they can take it and Google it. And like, cause I had never heard cloud computing, cloud engineering pre-Georgia Tech. So I would have never known. So,
well, I'll also say something more general. So I am like, in my company, you do a rotational program, you rotate teams. So this is just one team I'm rotating on now. But in general, you become a software engineer, and my company, every company is different. My company, we have different products, tech tools that we support. So if you are supporting a tech application product, you're a full stack engineer. So you're, I guess, programming the back end. You could be touching the front end for each individual application. So I'm trying to like figure out like how specific, like, should I get more into like what that means, or?
Only if you want. My goal is just to like introduce things.
Okay.
Then people can be like, oh, I've never heard this before. And they can go Google it and say, oh, this is interesting.
I hate it when I ask somebody a question, they like say a bunch of stuff I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out, okay, basically like, we're writing the code to support existing applications. You're also writing additional code to create new applications from time to time. Yeah. So what you learned in school, maybe writing Java, writing Python, maybe you did some front end development, which is like, the interface of the website, what it looks like, and making it pretty. Like all of those things are what we do, just at a large scale. Boom.
Yeah.
That's the explanation.
Yes. Listening to companies and computer science friends of mine, I now know more than I did before, but it pretty much stops at front end and back end. Front end, how it looks, back end, how it goes and get the information that you requested.
Yep.
That makes sense. So, but yeah, the goal is just to introduce the concept, and then someone can take it and be like, oh, that is interesting. Or, oh, that's not for me. So.
I promise it's interesting. How about that?
Debatable, but okay.
Yeah, come to, like, if you see BlackRock at a career fair or something, go check them out. Go talk to them. Maybe me, maybe I'll be there.
Yeah. I will say, even though like coding and programming wasn't my thing, there are certain like little pockets that are interesting to me. So like, okay. I feel like there's something for everybody in something. So
yeah, there is for sure. And you'll be surprised. Like there is something for you in a company that you never thought there would be something for you.
Really and truly. Yep. And all of my internships and even I'm also in a rotational program. Even my rotation now, I do more and more coding. Like I'm still in the lab, but the other half of my project is like coding. So okay, it's a good skill to have also.
Yeah, no, it is. And I don't know if there's a question about like my takeaway. Learn how to code, like learn even the most basic level, how to code in the most basic language. Like it is so valuable. No matter what your like major is, no matter what your focus is, you should just make it a side project.
Yes, great skill to have. BlackRock is actually where I started teaching myself how to code.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yes,
that's good inspiration for it.
Yeah. Do you have the type of role you thought you would have coming out of tech?
I think I do. I wanted to be a software engineer, work on like what I was describing, developing applications, designing them. So that's exactly what I'm doing.
Okay. Yep. And then I think you probably answered this, but I was going to say, do the skills that you say that you've gained from Georgia Tech translate on your job day to day? But I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I would say so. And if not, like it just sets a good foundation for it, right? Like it's just, maybe I don't know the specifics, but I do know like the fundamental basics. Yeah. And I also have the engineering mindset to figure it out. Boom, full circle.
Yeah. Well, all the things, All right. Last set of questions. This is what I like to call the lightning round pop quiz. Okay. I'm going to give you this or that statements, and you just say whatever answer resonates the most in your spirit. Okay. All right. Are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready. I think so.
Okay. Project assignment or homework assignment?
Project assignment.
Final project or final exam?
Final exam.
Ooh. Group project or solo project?
Group, always.
Study group or study solo?
Study group.
Okay. Meal plan or cook your own food?
Oh, meal plan all day. Okay, come on.
Would you rather ask a professor for help or a TA?
TA.
Internships or co-ops?
Internships.
Fall semester or spring semester?
Spring.
Roommates or no roommates?
Roommates.
Last question. Would you rather have 8 a.m.s Monday through Thursday or 5 to 8 labs on a Friday?
I thought that was going to be the easiest question. Monday through Thursday?
Yeah.
Lab Friday.
Really?
Yep.
That's valid.
Yep.
Have you've had an 8 a.m. before, right?
Yes, it's the death of me. I cannot even like 1-2 days a week. I cannot. I'm gonna miss the class. Like
it's tough. I remember living on the Freshman Hill. I had an 8 a.m. in Boggs. I don't know if you've ever been to Boggs. But it's like going towards the IC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's like tucked off in the cut. And I used to have to walk up Freshman. This is before I learned how to work the bus system, so don't judge me. I had to walk up Freshman Hill, down the steps by the Coke, across the campus, it was a lot.
No, that's too much. That's too much for what, 7:50? Because you gotta get there before 8 a.m. Nope.
Yeah. So before I let you go, I'm gonna give you the floor is there any parting advice that you would like to give to any student who may want to study computer engineering or STEM field in general?
Yeah, I would just say from my heart, from the bottom of my heart, like, it's gonna sound corny, but like, you can do it. Seriously. Like, and I know Breeze probably said something similar in past episodes, but like, I would say the same thing. Like, you like, and I think part of everybody who's like graduates from a school like Georgia Tech, you thought at some point like you could never do it. That can never be you walking across the stage, calling yourself an electrical engineer, calling yourself a computer engineer. Like, that was me as well. But like, I'm telling you, you can do it. You can figure out these things that look impossible and seem impossible. So like, if there's any part of you that's interested in doing it, don't let like the doubt or the fear like stop you from doing it. Like, go for it. Because in the end, we need more engineers, and you should believe in yourself just in general.
That is very true.
And it's teaches, and it's one step in other hard things. Like, you don't want to look back at your life and be like, man, that was easy. You know what I mean? Like, you want to be like, man, I took challenges, I took risks, and they paid off, right? So that's how I think about it, and that's how you should think about it too. So go for it.
I absolutely second that motion, because when you get to the end, you're going to feel so fulfilled and so amazed at what you were able to accomplish. And then it gives you like this newfound confidence for going out into the world, into this next phase of your life, you know? So absolutely go for it. Thank you so much, Alton. I really appreciate you.
Of course. Thank you, guys. Thank you.